It's been a long time since Arizona football has had a first-round pick, let alone a flurry of NFL prospects. This year, it appears to be a little bit different in these next coming seasons. Let's explain it here on Locked On Wildcats.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Mike Luke. All right, we got a lot to get to this show, but we're going to talk about the NFL right now, and a big part of that. Now, when you think about the NFL, you don't think about a ton of. Well, let's just be honest here. Arizona football players, because as a matter of fact, the last time there was a first-round pick from the U of A, I believe it was Antoine Cason in 2008. It's not good. And not only is it not good, it is it's something that needs to be rectified, and something that needs to be rectified very, very quickly. Because it's not always the case, but when you come in here at the U of A, you know that the best team, generally the teams with the most NFL players win the most games. You look at Alabama, you look at Georgia, you look at Ohio State. There's a correlation. There's definitely a correlation involved there, and that correlation is definitely that. Well, let's just be honest here. The teams that have the most NFL players are generally the best teams. Okay, so let's look at it. Look at the best U of A football team ever, in my opinion, and we can go backwards because there's two options right here. The best one, in my opinion, is 1998, because I believe that had the fewest amount of holes in it. The offense on 94 was not great, but you look at 98, and there were 19 NFL players on that roster. And they were across the board on offense and defense. You look at it, Dennis Northcutt, wide receiver, played in the NFL for quite a long time. Jeremy McDaniel, Mike Lucky, Brandon Manamuliana, Yusuf Scott was picked. Edwin Mulatalo started 14 seasons. Then you look on the defensive side, and there were other guys as well, Jonah Savaiinaea. But then you look at the other side of the ball. Defensively, you had a number of players that played in the NFL. Chris McAllister was a top 10 pick. I missed another first-round pick. Trung candidate first-round pick as well. And then defensively, though, you obviously had Marcus Bell, you had Joe Tafoya, you just had a number of players that were played in the NFL. I mean, heck, when you're able to redshirt a Lance Briggs, that shows you a redshirt a Lance Briggs and an Antonio Pierce. That just shows you how deep you were. So, and then you look at 94, the team that throttled Miami in the Fiesta Bowl. And you got Teddy Bruschi. He doesn't need any introduction. Then you've also had, Brandon Sanders played in the NFL. You look at on basically the entire defense. Tony Bowie obviously played in the NFL. Sean Harris, Ty Parton, just a lot of dudes that played in the NFL. There haven't been a lot of guys from Arizona that have played in the NFL of late, and that is a problem. And so let's look at these players now, because it's now about to be a little different here at the U of A. And not only is it about to be a little different, that's a good thing, obviously. Now, in my opinion, we're going to go best right here. In my opinion, Jonah Savaiinaea is the best pro prospect on this team, and I would be very, very surprised if he is not at least a mid-first round pick. As a matter of fact, I think he's probably going to be higher than that, because I expect him to excel at tackle this year. And not only do I think he's going to excel at tackle, I think that he's going to, and that's going to show that to the NFL folks that dude, if you can dominate a guard and you can dominate a tackle, there's a lot to like right there about Mr. Jonah Savaiinaea. That's for sure. Now, some of the other players then that, we'll keep talking about Big Jonah for a second. Jonah's a freak. Jonah looks different than and this is a pretty talented team, but Jonah looks different than everybody else on this roster. And Jed Fish talked about that from day one. He said, there's not a lot of play. You don't see a lot of guys that can carry weight like Jonah Savaiinaea can carry weight. And that is an impressive aspect of what Big Jonah is. And again, Big Jonah is a monster out there. He came in at 330, but it looked like, it was a well-defined 330 as a 17 or an 18-year-old, which you generally don't see. As a matter of fact, you rarely if ever see that. So again, Big Jonah, lot to like right there. And honestly, he's going to knock the ball out of the park when it comes to weightlifting, when it comes to all of his shuttles, everything from on the field to all of the strength metrics. Jonah is just a monster. Again, Jonah should. If Jonah was at Georgia, Jonah would start. If Jonah was at Alabama, Jonah would start. He is, like I said, he is a unicorn. He's something just entirely different than what we've seen here in Tucson. And the great thing about it too is that he's also still learning, and that's what's so impressive about it. He came in here as a 3-star kid, obviously, because of Hawaii was different with COVID. Arizona certainly took advantage of this, but Jonah should. Well, let's be honest here. Jonah should have been a 5-star. There's not 25 better NFL prospects in his class. I guarantee it. I don't even need to look at it. He is somewhere in there. Just a big time prospect. Then after that, you got Jordan Morgan, local kid, Jordan Morgan out of Marana. And I got to be honest here, I didn't see it with Jordan Morgan when I saw him in high school. I thought that nice player, got some talent to him for sure, but I did not look at him and say that he was going to be an impactful defense or college football player. As a matter of fact, I thought that he would probably be somewhere in that. I don't know, probably somewhere in that. Kind of that swing tackle, something like that. You're not great, but you're also really nice to have on the roster. Man, was I wrong on Jordan Morgan. Jordan Morgan is an absolute monster. Before he got hurt last year, before he got hurt right here, he was a dude who was obviously on a lot of first-round picks, or on a lot of first-round charts, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But first, let's talk about Nutrafol. All right, Nutrafol. All right, check it out. Again, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $10 off your first month subscription. Shop now at Nutrafol.com/men. Nutrafol is here for you, for all the people out there that are have thinning hair, that are like trying to get it stronger. Nutrafol is here for you. They have heard your complaints, and they are saying, we are here to help you. Not all heroes wear capes, and that is something that certainly Nutrafol does exemplify right there. So again, check it out, Nutrafol.com/men. All kinds of good stuff right there. And again, they heard everybody out there, and they are here to help you. So again, check it out, Nutrafol. All right, we're going to take a quick little break. Then we're going to come back, and we're going to talk more about Jordan Morgan. Thanks for keeping it locked on, Wildcats. I'm your host, Mike Luke. All right, we got to talk a little Jordan Morgan here again. But before Jordan Morgan got hurt last year, he was definitely heading towards that first-round pick status. As a matter of fact, he was showing up on first-round picks, or first-round charts. He obviously got hurt, and not only did he get hurt, it was right at the end of the season. So he decided to come back to the U of A and obviously take advantage of that strength and conditioning staff, which is second to none. And he has, and I think he's going to be ready to rock and roll week one. Not only do I think he's going to be ready to rock and roll week one, he looks fantastic already. We saw him in the spring, and he was moving around really well, even without the brace on, which a lot of people noticed immediately, including myself, obviously. And he's just a huge dude. He graded out as one of the best tackles in all of college football last year, and I don't see any reason that he won't, especially too because you got another guy at Jonah Savaiinaea on the other side that is going to be a monster as well. Jaden Delora's got a lot of Jaden Delora's got a lot of Jaden Delora's got a lot of just ability right there to move around because you got two tackles right there. I expect Jordan Morgan, if he's not a first-round pick, I expect him to be a second-round pick, assuming he stays healthy and assuming he is healthy. Jonah Savaiinaea to me is a lock to be a first-round pick. Jordan Morgan is definitely right in that realm right there, and I think he's pretty close to that if he's not already. But, again, just a big-time player. Then you got T-Mac, Mr. McMillan. Let's talk about him a little bit. 5-star wide receivers generally don't come to the U of A, and not only do they generally not come to the U of A, they don't come anywhere close to the U of A, but Jedd Fisch has changed all that. Big thing with T-Mac is he's your proverbial he's an awesome red zone target. He's literally about 6'4", can jump. He is huge now from a muscular standpoint. If he came in looking kind of like a boy, he's a grown man right now. I think he's going to be 13, 14 touchdowns, something like that. And not only 13, 14 touchdowns, I think he's going to surprise some people with his speed and the way that he's been able to improve it under T.O. And I'll just put it out here. If he runs a high 4.4, you're looking at a first-round pick right there because the ball skills are all fantastic. And not only are the ball skills fantastic, football is another guy. We've talked about this quite a bit. Football comes naturally to him. And not only does it come naturally to him, it is you can just tell that he gets it. And a big part of it, people question his speed a little bit. I think you're going to see a much faster guy out there. Plus, his hands are fantastic. If there's a wide receiver in the conference with better hands than him, in the country, actually, I would love to see it. He's just, like I said, he's another guy that's what a starting NFL wide receiver is supposed to look like right here. And he is that guy. I expect him to put up really big numbers. And not only do I expect him to put up really big numbers, I think that he's going to besides putting up big numbers, I think that he's going to, well, let's just be honest here. I think he's going to be amongst the best wide receivers in the country, and not only amongst the best wide receivers in the country, a player who I think we're going to look back on as one of the best skill position players in U of A history. That's how good he is. That's the kind of, I think, prowess that he possesses. Now, let's talk a little bit about then Jacob Cowing. Jacob Cowing, I believe, will play in the NFL because he's uber productive. And not only is he uber productive, he's also a player who works really hard. He's got a position. He can be a kick returner. He can be in the slot. His only problem is he's small. And when I say he's small, he's definitely small. But that doesn't mean that he can't overcome that. The big thing for him is staying healthy. Because if he can put together a 1,300-yard year, you're probably looking at somewhere in that late third, early fourth round pick, especially depending on how he runs. He's going to be a little bit thicker now, which is obviously a very good thing. But again, another guy who should be on an NFL roster. And if he can stay healthy, I think he could be on an NFL roster for quite a while. That's how, that's what he can do. So Jacob Cowing, another guy. Now, let's talk a little bit about Tanner McLaughlin. Tanner McLaughlin, if you were to ask me this last year, I would say, what in the world are you talking about? I do not see Tanner McLaughlin being that player. But again, a tight end that gets open, it's big. He's about 6'5", 235. And another dude that just kind of gets open and is able to find those creases. He had an opportunity last year where he might have been picked. Now, again, I don't think he would have been picked, but it wouldn't have surprised anybody if he was in that 6th or 7th round. He comes back this year and he catches for 500, 600, 700 yards. I think you will see him picked. This is going to be his last year. This was another great eval by the Jed Fish coaching staff. Stop me if you've heard this one before, because again, McLaughlin is a big time player, and I think he's one of the best tight ends in the entire conference, and I think he's probably underrated nationally. Definitely an NFL player. All right, now Jaden Delora is fascinating because he's got a big arm. He can move around. I just don't know that his consistency is there. I don't see him as an NFL player, but people smarter than me think that he could play in the NFL, so we'll see. But he's also about 5'10". Montana Lamonius Craig, another player that looks like an NFL player. That's how NFL players look. And not only is that how NFL players look, he's the prototype right there. He's about 6'2", 215. He can high point the ball and he can go up and get it. A big time player. I think there's some real NFL potential for him as well. So, and then you got other players as well it's obviously really early, but they flash interesting potential. Look at Wendell Moe. Wendell Moe is going to be a 4-year starter or a 3-year starter, depending on how he is at the U of A. And I think he'll be an all-conference player. Same with Robert Polito as well. The offensive line, as we've talked about, is absolutely loaded. Then on the defensive side, there's actually a few players that are intriguing as well. I don't know how, where, but it feels like Jacob Manu will find a spot in the NFL. I get how small he is. Trust me, I've been next to him hundreds of times. But when you're that thick and when you're able to just get to the ball carrier, when you're able to have that next level reaction, that's something that not a lot of players have. And not only do not a lot of players have that, that's something that a lot of times you're just born with. Jacob Manu was born with that. And not only was Jacob Manu born with that, he was that's going to carry with him. And I think he's going to put up such massive stats that he will get to the point where he's going to get a look. And so I definitely think that he will get a look right there. The best defensive prospect on the team, a cornerback. We're going to talk about him next. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Mike Luke. Now, a player that we definitely need to talk about, who I believe is the best pro prospect on the defensive side of the football, and that is Ephesians Prysock. Ephesians Prysock is that new age of corner. He's about 6'2", but you watch him, he doesn't move 6'2". He's got great hips, he's got great fluidity, and he's got good ball skills. Now, again, he's got to continue to prove it on the field, but I think you're looking at somebody who could be a second or a third round pick. He's got that type of ability to him. And not only does he have that type of ability, I think he's going to excel this year. And I think he's going to become a regional name this year and probably a national name next year. Very, very good player, an incredibly impressive prospect there. I think under the tutelage of Dwayne Aquina, he's going to continue to improve. And not only is he going to continue to improve, I think you're going to start seeing him get some real accolades in there as well. But another dude who's just a really, really good football player. And then after that, you got a lot of question marks, obviously. Nobody that really sticks out on the defensive side. That's something they've obviously got to continue to work on. Offensively, though, it's fascinating, though, because offensively, you've also got some other guys that I don't think anybody would be surprised by if they were a first-round pick, an NFL player. Kean Burnett, for example. Kean Burnett comes from an NFL family, obviously, and 6'5", 235, 240, and able to move the way he is. Those guys are always going to be in demand. And not only are they always going to be in demand, there's always going to be a spot for them as well. He's just got to be able to show it on the football field. And if he shows it on the football field, then things are going to be really, really good for the U of A. Then other players, obviously, are Michael Wiley. I was remiss in him. I believe Michael Wiley will play in the NFL. He's got very much of a Shane Vereen type feel to him in that he will he's going to be able to catch some passes. He's going to be able to come out of the backfield. He's going to be able to run. He might not run the fastest 40 time, but he's another player, though, that is football fast and that players don't generally catch Michael Wiley. And that is That's something that is a real skill no matter what you run. I mean, you think of the ASU game where he's still running. Guys just tend not to be able to get to him. Michael Wiley is definitely an NFL player, and I believe he's going to end up on some team like the Patriots as like a 6th-round pick, and he'll be there for 5, 6, 7 years. He's a really good player, one of the few players that, along with Jordan Morgan and a couple others, one of the few good players that Kevin Sumlin actually brought in here. All right. We've talked all U of A football these past 3 days. Now, we're going to get into Arizona basketball coming up here tomorrow. The Jerusalem trip. We've had a few games to watch and be able to see everything on there. And that's going to be a lot of fun because I expect this team to be a lot better than they were last year, a lot tougher than they were last year. All right. On that note, you have a great rest of your Wednesday. I'm your host, Mike Luke. And again, thanks for making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. Sincerely appreciate it. We will be back with you tomorrow talking some Arizona basketball. Have a great rest of your day.